Welcome everybody to the Selectmen meeting for April 26, 2021. Call the meeting to order at 6:30. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Public announcements. Alex, did you have anything? Any public announcements?
Oh, yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did. One moment. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the support of the community, and I look forward to serving the only community I've known for all my life. I am honored by the residents and voters of Abington who have entrusted in me to serve them and represent their voices on the Board of Selectmen. I will keep my promise to advocate for every resident, senior, student, first responder, taxpayer, and employee of Abington, and I uphold my duties as selectman. Thank you, Abington.
Mike, anything?
Nope, nothing.
Kevin?
Nothing.
Alex?
I just want to give a shout out to John Stone and the Highway Department again, the DPW. A resident complained to me about actually getting a ticket for running a stop sign, and the line is quite a ways back from the intersection, and there's trees on the side, so she beat the ticket. But I called John Stone, and he happened to be in that area. He looked at it, and he said, "You're right, something's got to be done." And just like John, always, it was taken care of, or it's in the process, I should say, of being taken care of right away. The Highway Department does not get enough credit for all the things they do in this town, so just thank you, John, and thank you all the employees at the Highway and DPW. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. That kind of leads into mine. I just wanted to thank the Highway Department as well, the police, the fire, and the town clerk, and all the volunteers for their hard work on Saturday. We had town elections. And we were headed in a new place, and we were working through a new facility and everything, and everybody really worked hard together to make it possible. So just a big thank you to the whole team that was involved there. Public comments. Does anybody from the audience have any comments on anything on tonight's agenda? Would they like to speak now?
Okay.
Step up, please. Your name and address for the minutes.
Pat Kearney, 652 Adams Street. I know that you guys are going to be reviewing the enforcement of the cease and desist orders against the property. I'd like to thank you for hearing me tonight and say congratulations to Mr. Haggerty. Basically, I have the same question as the board had at the end of last meeting is, you know, why are the cease and desists not being enforced? Why are there no fines? This operation started late September, early October of 2019, and it's been a nuisance ever since. The very first day that Mr. Sullivan came in, he didn't come in. His tree crew came in and started cutting trees while my wife and I were out in our backyard, and it became a mad dash to cover our pool. You know, unannounced snow, it was like a snowstorm of sawdust. That was the start. As you know, he's been operating his business in violation of 4 cease and desist orders issued by the town. And the operation is not, he's trying to, as of right now, he's working with the planning board to try and get a site plan review. And he's claiming that he's an open lot storage business, but he's not. He works on his vehicles. He's admitted as such. His lawyer has admitted as such. He's a maintenance shop, a truck, whatever it is, but he doesn't just store vehicles there. He also claims the vehicles leave in the winter and come back. Well, the snowplows do, and they're back already, also in violation of a cease and desist. The operation has created a lot of problems with me and my family and our inability to quietly enjoy our backyard. There's noise, there's smell, the fumes, the dust, and the worst is the vibration. He has a forklift that when he runs a forklift, I could be sitting in any room in my house, TV blaring, and I can tell you he started his forklift just from the vibration of my house. So, you know, can't sleep with the windows open. The first cease and desist was issued on May 19th of 20. by Marshall Adams, and he did not stop running his business. So that's when we lobbied and came before the board in October, and the board authorized town's attorney to issue a cease and desist. Her cease and desist basically said to stop all commercial operations, remove all commercial equipment. You absolutely cannot rent out the house, and to vacate the premises until you can get a site plan review approved. He kept operating his business, and so in November, I sent an email to Mr. Lambasi and Mr. Adams asking, what's going on, because the cease and desist was issued on October 26th by the town's attorney to immediately remove all equipment. They said they were going to give him a little time because he said he was going to get his equipment out by December 1st. If I was told by December 1st, if he didn't get the equipment out, the town would seek relief in the courts. The only thing he removed was the plow trucks. He didn't remove them until December 15th. But he still had 4 other trucks, forklifts, skid steers, multiple plows, all kinds of commercial equipment. The place looks like a junkyard. It really does. So, besides that, since on December 28th, his lawyer sent a letter to the town's lawyer saying, basically, I know we told you we weren't going to rent the house out, but guess what? We're going to rent the house out. And there was a tenant moved in 2 days later. So, excuse me a second. I'm coming off a double shift, so if I start rambling, feel free to stop me and ask questions.
Take your time.
Yeah, so he only removed the plow trucks, and I have multiple videos, and I can show you if you'd like to see. I've got Ring cameras on my house. I had to put them up because he sticks his weed whacker under the fence at my dogs, and long story short, I had to put cameras up. So the cameras picked up his trucks in and out since January when he's under cease and desist. These are the plow trucks, rack trucks, utility trucks. 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. He's created so much stress in my family, it's unbelievable. We get into arguments over it. We just have not been able to go out in our backyard and quietly enjoy our own property for over a year now. So it's created me health conditions too, like I've never had anxiety in my life, but I had to cancel a knee surgery several weeks ago because I was having heart palpitations and they wouldn't do the surgery. So I contacted Mr. Lambasi in late February with some voicemails. In early March, I know being the new town manager, he's busy and everything like that. So, Scott's been a great advocate for me. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to throw him under the bus. I kind of let it go because I figured the planning board was wearing down. I thought they were going to reject this plan, but then all of a sudden in the last couple meetings, it seemed like things were looking good for him. So I was forced to retain an attorney who pointed out that he does not have adequate frontage or lot width to meet the current zoning, which he would have to under a change of use. So currently he's contacted town council. Town council is going to be at the next planning board meeting to give her interpretation because he believes it's grandfathered. We believe when you go from a pre-existing non-conforming use to a conforming use, you have to come up to current zoning. So that's the argument there. But I'm just hoping that maybe town council will have the sense to say that the project's a non-starter. He never should have even come to the site plan review, and tell him to restore the property back to a residence because it's killing us. And I'm the only one that's here, but you can ask anyone in the neighborhood; they're pretty sick of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So, any other public comments? Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I do have a question. Was there any follow-up after the 4 cease and desist?
It'll probably be answered in the next thing on the agenda is actually an update on that.
Okay, thank you.
So we can probably answer, unless you have a question for somebody in the audience. No? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So we'll go right on to old business, and Scott, you wanted to give us an update on what's going on here? Right?
Yeah, really, what I wanted to let you know is, and a lot of what you've just heard, since then I did ask, from our attorney and our building inspector and the assistant planner, what exactly is the update, what's going on. I've been told on May 3rd, they are coming back to the planning board. I have authorized town council to be at that planning meeting to discuss the issues that he just brought up. When I requested that, we do more enforcement on it and follow through with the courts, council had advised me that because they're in front of the planning board, that they're not likely to seek, we're not likely to be awarded an injunction from the courts or a court order. That being said, I did ask them to step up the enforcement. I asked, to what was going on out there at this time. I was, from the planning department, I did hear that they are going to follow through with it, and some of the questions that we have are the same questions that the planning board are asking. The report I got back from the building inspector was that he hasn't seen any new activity out there. He reports that there were only a couple of trucks out behind the house, and that the original cease and desist order requiring all the other trucks to move has been complied with, and that apparently there's no evidence that he has seen on anyone living there.
Excuse me, may I speak to that?
I am only responding to what I've got.
He's there right
Scott?
now.
Okay.
He's there right now working. You're being lied to, or somebody's misinformed. I can show you pictures from yesterday of all the plows, all the equipment, the forklifts, there's several trucks, and I'll give you all my ring video from the last 3 months. He's been there almost every day working.
Well, if you can email
And
me
there's a family living in the house.
any of that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, if you
It would
could
be-
send.
It would be helpful if you could send it to me.
I'll show it to you right now. I mean,
Well, I could have it.
why would your building inspector come back to you and say that? That's crazy.
I don't think he's been out to the property since last June, when they went to look at the fence, which they told him to cut down, but it's still 8 feet, which sits 2 feet off the ground.
Well, I will follow up tomorrow
It-
myself.
Haven't you seen the fence? Weren't you out there?
I saw the fence. I was
The 8-foot fence?
From my side?
2
the
feet off
fence viewer.
ground?
I was there.
There was no fence there when you were there.
Your fence?
When you came to my house, there was no fence there.
Between-
My fence was there, not his.
Okay.
This has gone on for over a year now. This is crazy.
And,
What is going on here?
and just to clarify, so when was the last time the building inspector was out on the property?
As far as we know, June 1st, 2020.
No, my just concern is with the safety.
Oh, it's yeah, it's completely unsafe. Completely unsafe. I sent it back into the planning board. I don't know if they've still got it, but it's got several pictures of unsafe work practices. It's got pictures of the ditches that he dug against my house and then filled in with the fill. It's got pictures of everything. I've thrown so much evidence at this town, and so much proof, and so many pictures, and I've offered it up to everybody, and whoever needs anything, I can give it to you. But I can't believe that.
suggest you send us all the video, send an email to Scott tomorrow, and if this is true, Scott, I disagree with, I'm not an attorney, but I disagree with town council. Just because they've applied to the planning board doesn't waive the cease and desist.
Correct.
The
No.
cease and
Correct.
desist says they can't rent it, they can't use it, and just because they applied doesn't mean they can do it.
I think
Oh, I
town
agree.
council's point is not that it's legal, it's that we'd be wasting our money because we're not likely to, the court's not likely to rule in our favor.
I'd like to see that correspondence. I really would, because I can't believe a lawyer would think that this is not a winner. I mean, it's just so egregious how he's been violating everything and flaunting it, and I've had to live beside it. It's unbelievable what I've had to live with.
My concern if, all these vehicles there, if they're still there.
And they're all old and in disrepair. One of the videos I'll show you is one of his trucks, and you can hear the brakes as he can't stop at the end of his driveway. And my grandchildren play on the other side of that fence. He's got no buffer zones, no anything.
I just, for me,
It's a dangerous operation, and obviously you guys know, from North Quincy Street, that this kind of stuff can't go on in this town. This is not the kind of contractor you want in the town of Abington.
Can I just show, in one email chain?
Do me a favor, I'm sorry, just step up to the microphone, there's people at home watching that.
Hi. It's actually an email chain between Mr. Lambasi. I believe most of you are copied on it, but he was actually the one who said that after December 1st, if the vehicles weren't removed, that town council would seek relief in the courts. And, I mean, that's after their cease and desist, and like, so if
Yeah.
he's willfully disobeying the cease and desist, I don't know why the courts wouldn't find reason to grant an injunction.
Especially with the safety concerns.
Because it's a zoning issue, and the courts, when they are faced with these zoning issues, they don't deal with them the same way that they deal with criminal issues or other issues.
Well, that's not
And
what
the
my
first
attorney
question that, you know.
Isn't that what land court is for, though, these specific issues?
It is. I'm just
And
telling you, the
Even
way.
the town engineer, Mr. Peralt, doesn't really seem too versed in the town's bylaws, because he hasn't even addressed certain ones where commercial or industrial properties are next to a residential property. He just disregards those, like the buffer strips and other ones in the site plans, and I brought it up at the last planning board meeting, and he didn't have an answer, and it wasn't addressed in his last review, and...
Yeah,
and-
which is specifically addressed in the town lawyer's cease and desist order.
Well, and that's
175,
something that we can
66A
bring up at the
strips.
planning board.
I mean,
I'm sorry?
So that's something that we should bring up with the planning board.
It's something that should have been taken care of 9, 10 months ago, Scott. It's like the town is just doing nothing about this, absolutely nothing.
my other question is, we submitted a complaint per 17580 to the Selectmen in July. I don't think you guys ended up getting it
Yeah.
until September, whatever, which should have caused an investigation within 14 days. We should have got a written result or a report, which if we didn't agree, there would have been an appeals process, which we didn't have that. We didn't get a result.
Yeah.
And if the neighbor didn't agree, he could have appealed it, but we didn't have that opportunity because you guys could have shut him down then. So I don't understand.
It-
Can I just interject? Like,
Sure.
I get the cease and desist order, and we've done it with other places, but you have to understand that the court system is where we're going to, and the court system is not working as they normally would be. So we're trying to work with them as well. So it's not all on the town, it all also interjects with where we can come with,
Are you
our attorneys going to the court and getting these orders in effect. And just because we have an order in effect and they don't follow that order, we have to go to the next step. And it's difficult for us right now too, and I know everybody's playing it's COVID time and whatever, but the court system is not fully in force right now, which is making us,
Didn't they
what's
just
your
go
name?
back?
I don't know if they just went back, I just know
But
that.
the whole point of 17580 is that you guys can shut him down. And then if he disobeys that, then you go to court and they can shut him down. And then it's in the,
We tried with other places.
but you didn't try it with this property.
I think we have.
We didn't
and
get a written result, though. I don't understand. What is your name? I'm sorry.
My name is Sue, I'm the assistant town manager, and I just feel like you have to understand that there's a process that we're trying to do, and we can't go forward if the court system isn't working with us.
Okay, but I was assured you would initiate the process December 1st. When did you initiate the process?
I can't answer that for you because I was not part of the process with Mr. Adams, but I can say that I know for a fact the court system is not helping us get our job done.
But regardless of the courts, you guys have your own process through 17580.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to do with the courts. That's before the courts. So
You've
what
got the
about
authority to
that?
issue fines,
I don't
which I've
understand
asked
that.
about several times too. I'll give you guys my email strings, and I'll give you the videos, and I'll give you the pictures. I'll email it to every one of you.
Mr.
Mr.
Lin-
Hagerty, I would imagine it's a.hagerty@abington.gov.
It's ashman1995@verizon.net.
Okay.
My initials.
1995 at verizon.net, okay.
If you send it to the town manager, he can make sure we
But
all
we
get it
will
on the
We're
Right.
same.
sending stuff to the town manager, and it doesn't seem to get to the board.
I can confirm, when I receive it, I can reply and confirm that I received it.
Well, we have
if
your,
it makes
isn't
you-
it Teach, Chapin,
We've
Chapin?
got
What's
all
that?
your emails, I can send
Yeah.
it to the board myself.
That's fine. I mean, and they're all online too. I don't know if Alex is set up yet, that's why,
Yeah, we got them.
that's why I said that.
Yes,
But, but isn't the whole point of 17580 is that the selectmen can investigate a complaint?
Yeah,
and
regardless of zoning, regardless of zoning.
And
you
what we
guys can
did, what we
investigate a
did was,
complaint.
what we did was charge Marshall with that, because I'm certainly
Well-
not a zoning expert, I'm not, we're not
Marshall has
investigators.
given me some pretty egregious interpretations of the zoning bylaws, and I honestly, I gotta say, I don't think he's really doing his job.
I understand, I mean, I can't speak for him, and, I mean, we can have them back, we can have him and town council at a meeting when, unfortunately, I can't answer your questions.
They will both
I
be
understand.
at the planning meeting on the 3rd.
Marshall
Yeah.
is confirmed to be there?
He's been told to be there, yes,
Okay.
or requested to be
But
there, yes.
honestly, is he supposed to be in front of the planning board? Because isn't he supposed to seek the zoning relief first?
I don't know.
Why- why-
That'd be a good question.
Well, because
while town council is there.
The whole reason of the site plan review is to become conforming with zoning. That's why they've been working his 7 site plans that he keeps, just putting little additions to that aren't even close to what's in the zoning bylaws.
This is very complicated.
It is, there's a lot of information.
It really is, and I want you to be able to get the answers, and I'd love to have this conversation with town council here. And if I guess if I had realized how complicated it had become, we
Yeah.
could have arranged that for tonight. Because I hate to say we'll come back in 2 weeks, because
Well,
that's 2 more weeks of,
I do think
for
that,
you.
in at least in that time, we could have them both, town council and Marshall, come to this meeting on the 10th, and they would have already at least had the ability to meet with the planning on the 3rd. So we should have a lot more answers by then.
Can I ask
The board has the authority on its own to issue fines, too. $300 per offense per day. If you only find it for 1 offense per day since November 1st, after the cease and desist, you'd be at $43,100 that he owes you.
Can I just ask one question? And how exactly do the 17580 complaints work then if you guys don't,
If you just pass it
if
off
you
to...
don't investigate or anything like the bylaws state?
well, we charge somebody to do that, just like,
So-
we
so-
would with anything, like, if we had a investigation that was criminal, we would have the police, you know what I mean?
So wouldn't
Yeah,
that mean we
yeah.
still should
For
have gotten a
example,
written
North
answer?
Quincy Street, we put the fire chief in charge
So-
of investigating it. So
Well,
in
Would
this
it-
one here, obviously,
charge
we
of this
put
one?
Marshall in charge of it, and
Wouldn't we still
apparently
have
it's not
gotten a
being done
written
right.
answer though?
I've had conversations with Chief Nuttall about the property also, and that's another thing, is the site plan review, he hasn't even been considered. And it's usually a courtesy that they ask the fire department, to come in and see what you think. I would like to see him in charge of the investigation, because it doesn't seem that Marshall's really doing anything.
I'm not sure his expertise on zoning either.
I don't even think a fire truck could turn around.
I think if you just examine the place for safety, He's renting the place out to people, and he doesn't have railings on his stairs. He doesn't have any kind of, he's got an old truck bed that's a dumpster right against my property with old oil cans and everything in it. It's a dangerous property. He's got no plan for, hazardous storage, things like that. Nobody knows what he's got, where it is, how it's being stored. And like I said, I'll show you the pictures of him picking up the fork truck picking up his truck with his fork truck, and him and his daughter working underneath it. His wife riding on the side of the fork truck while his wife standing on fence panels so they wouldn't fall off the fork truck while they're riding. All kinds of unsafe work practices going on over there.
Well, get us everything you can, and we will follow up on it. And I know it's no consolation, but we are working on improving, on a system that will hopefully improve complaints like this in the
Yeah.
future.
It seems like you need a little bit more inter-board communication.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
And that's what we're going to be working on.
Excellent, thank you.
Mr. Town Manager, will you be at the planning board meeting next week with Town Council and Mr. Marshall Adams?
Yeah, will Marshall be there?
He just said he would.
I know Marshall will be there, town council will be there, I'm not sure if I'll be there, but I'll make an effort to be there, yes.
I think
right.
it would benefit
Yeah,
everybody.
it kind of helped the lines of communication,
Would it be beneficial for our board that Marshall appear before us to discuss?
Well, on the 10th after the...
That was our plan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, on the 10th was to have Marshall and town council.
Okay, just wanted to
All in the room
clarify on
together,
that.
yeah.
Okay, great, thank you
that's
very
it.
much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was that the end of your update on Adams Street?
I believe so.
All right. Next up is reorganization of the board. So at this time, I will hand the gavel. Usually it's proverbial, but you got one now. I'll hand that over to Scott, and he can handle this portion of the meeting. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion for chairman?
I'd make a motion for Kevin Damasio to be chairman.
Do I hear a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Do I hear a motion for anyone else to be a chairman? Do I hear a motion for anyone else? All in favor of Kevin Damasio as chairman?
Aye.
Aye.
So be it, I'll hand the gavel over and... You can vote a second, Chairman.
Congratulations.
We need a vice chair.
All right, this time, take any motions for vice chair.
I move that we make Tim Chapin vice chair.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, Tim?
You can move it.
No, we're good. Next week, I expect you won't be in that chair.
All right, next up on the agenda is vote to approve the minutes of April 12th, 2021.
Motion to approve.
We have a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstain.
401.
All right, the next up is vote on one appointment to the Griffin Dairy Committee. We have Susan Weaver and Teresa Mays who applied. Are they here tonight? Do they get up and speak? Do you want to get up and speak tonight, or? If you want to get up and say something, if,
Just as an FYI, we did receive a third request. Unfortunately, it didn't come in time to post this hearing, so I think we're just going to stick with these two.
okay. Susan, do you want to get up and speak, or? Okay.
I'll entertain any questions.
So I'll entertain a motion from the board if anyone has one.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to appoint Teresa Mays to the Griffin Dairy Committee.
I'll second that.
Okay. Is there any other motions? We have a motion and a second to appoint Teresa Mays. Take a vote of the board. To approve that motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Hey.
Unanimous. Teresa, congratulations. Susan Weaver, thank you. Next up is to appoint the representative to the Plymouth County Advisory Board. Does anyone have a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Alex Buzzinson as our representative to the Plymouth County Advisory Board.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, next up is review the town meeting warrant.
Yep, we have them hot off the press here for you. I don't know if you want to take the time to review them, and, you know, we can discuss them and vote on them at the next meeting. I think that might be how we did it last year, or it seemed to work out fairly good. I think, you know, I kind of went over some of it last week. We have the special and the annual and our budget.
So next meeting is,
So we're going to review them on our own and go over it next?
Yeah, I mean, rather than, it's either that or...
That's really clean
read
glass.
off each and every one of them tonight, and
Thank
then...
you.
But I think next, on the 10th would be the time that you would vote them.
Yeah, give us a chance to read them, so we're not.
But the annual, the budget, I know, these glasses things. The Article 1 to raise and appropriate, this is the budget part that's going to be inserted in there.
Someday we won't have a glass.
Tonight, we'll just review
Right,
it.
I know.
Yeah, I think they're better off.
Could you make the print any smaller?
I made it as small as I could read.
Thank you.
So does the board want to hear about them tonight, or do we want to review them and discuss them at next meeting?
I think we should review them on our own and read them and discuss them. I mean, unless anyone has questions.
And I will, obviously, if anybody wants to reach out and contact us, please do. I think we can post them as a draft in the meantime, can't we?
Yes.
So other people can look at them too.
Yeah, if we could get them up on the website tomorrow,
Yep.
because I've actually already had someone ask me for that.
All right, so those will be on next meeting, is it on May 10th?
It will be on May 10th.
All right. Next up, we have Thomas Hickey, the South Shore Regional School District representative. He's going to talk about the debt authorization article.
Good evening. Thanks for having us tonight. My name's Tom Hickey. I'm the Superintendent Director of South Shore Tech. I'm joined tonight by your representative to our Regional School Committee, Tom Petrozelli, and the District's Secretary and Treasurer, Jim Coughlin. So we've got a proposed article for consideration that we're bringing to all 8 of our towns regarding asking permission to give us the authority to borrow money over a period of time to deal with upcoming capital projects. I would have sent along some information a little earlier, and in that information, it would have indicated that we were seeking at the time about $18.9 million, which is apportioned to all 8 of our towns based on student population. Earlier this evening, our school committee met and we voted to reduce that total amount down to $10,516,372. And the reason for that reduction was in part because we had received some feedback from one of our member communities who's also dealing with a looming override vote. This figure represents the same plan that we've proposed, but we're only seeking the authorization to borrow the first 3 years of this 5-year plan. The needs are the same. Most of our building was constructed in 1962. We have a 1992 addition. We've been very thoughtful with the homework we've done in the last few years with our facilities master plan. So in a nutshell, what we're looking to do is to have the ability to make some of these larger capital projects more affordable by being able to do some borrowing. So our plan would involve nothing in fiscal '22, and starting in fiscal '23, we would begin with 2 years of bond anticipation notes, where essentially we would be paying interest only. And then in fiscal '25, the 3rd year of this phase-in, we would borrow an additional sum of money, and we would wrap that $10.5 million I just mentioned into a 20-year bond. There are options as to how to structure the bond, whether it's a level principal payment or a level debt service payment, but I think the most important message at the end of the day is that we think we have a way of making this affordable. And in the short term, the cost to our 8 communities in terms of capital and debt share is that it would actually be lower. See, we're in a position now where we're about to move into these larger capital projects, and it would not be reasonable to ask our communities to fund a large project in a single budget year. So this borrowing seems to be the next logical approach for us. So as we go to our 8 communities, what we're seeking, we would need all 8 communities to say yes. If one community were to say no, we wouldn't be able to borrow. So we would have to continue to essentially work on our long-range capital plan as a pay-as-you-go approach. We really want to preserve the fixed asset. We don't need a new school. We just need to push it deeper into this century. And we think that a combination of short-term borrowing, interest only, and then rolling it into a bond, we're looking at interest rates projected between 1.75 to 2.5%, so that perhaps by the time we're bonding in '25, it might be at that rate. So we think, we currently have no debt on the books, so we think the timing is right, and it's a plan that we've been working on for a while. So I'm happy to field any questions you might have, or go a little deeper if there are parts that I may have glossed over.
Thank you,
I have
Mr. Hickey.
one question, if that's okay.
Yep.
So what we pay is based on our enrollment from students from Abington that go to South Shore VOTEC. Is that based on students that go this year, and then throughout the whole borrowing process, it'll be the same, or will it fluctuate?
That's a great question. So our regional agreement actually covers that. It might, if it's okay, I have a handout that might help. Would that be all right?
Yes.
Please. Would you mind? Thank you. This handout, 2 pages. The first page, pretty charts. Second page, more numbers. But to answer your question, the regional agreement says that we do, when we authorize debt and it's approved by our communities, you do a 3-year look back on enrollment. So the answer is yes, it is based on enrollment, and it's based on 3 years preceding the debt authorization. So Abington's share of any debt that we might undertake would be 16.89% of the total. And so if you look at the first page of that handout, you can find the column labeled Abington. And what I'm attempting to show on this page is our 2 scenarios, one where we're paying back the note level debt service, the same payments every year, then the other is level principal, where the numbers start a little bit higher, but you're paying less interest. The number that you see in red that's called fiscal '22 capital share is Abington's share of the capital part of our assessment for fiscal '22. So I mentioned earlier that by being able to borrow and spread some of these payments out for these larger projects, it would make it more affordable, because if you were to follow the scenario at the top of that page, the most expensive year in a level debt service would be about $113,018. That compares to the fiscal '22 capital share of about $151,000. Now, again, these numbers that I'm citing to you here are not separate and apart from our annual assessment. When you see us in the town warrant and you see our budget line, it's only one number. So every year when we bring you a number, it includes operating, capital, and debt. So in 2010, we brought an article to our 8 towns to replace the roof over our 1962 building. It was an MSBA project. It was $3 million. We went to each of our communities. We did the same thing. And for about a 9-year period, we carried that debt, sliver each year for about 9 years, and it was baked into the assessment. So we still have a responsibility of bringing numbers to our 8 communities, budget numbers that have to be affordable. And so that's why I'm emphasizing the point that this borrowing is somehow not above and beyond some other assessment number we might bring you if I'm in front of your finance committee next winter talking about fiscal '23. If we're successful with this and we begin to plan for fiscal '23, any of these numbers would be built into a fiscal '23 assessment.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from the board?
I have one other question. Sue, maybe you could answer it if he can't, but what does this mean for our average taxpayer dollar amount on their taxes?
I'm not sure exactly, because I haven't talked to Sonia about it, but the explanation that I got earlier in the month was that they have debt on right now that is going to be dropping off. So it's not actually going to be a huge impact to the taxpayers to actually do this process, because we're dropping off, what, 100 and...
It's we have a very small amount
Right.
interest only.
So the difference of what they're dropping off and what they want to pick up isn't huge on what their assessment is.
Thank you.
I have one question. You said, well, explain to me how it went from 18.9 down to 10.5. And are we doing everything, but now we're doing it for 10.5 rather than 18?
I wish. No.
So-
Yes, so in our 5-year phase, and we had a designated amount of money that we would borrow in each of the 5 years. Our original plan was 2 years of bond anticipation notes and then a first bond, followed by additional bond anticipation notes and a second bond. So what we've done is we've scaled it back, saying add up the cost of the first 3 years of this plan, and that's where you get that number. So it's not covering the cost of everything we think we need to do.
So in 3 years, you're going to come back to us for another 8.9 million?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
Just to clarify one thing for Mr. Chapin, Jim Coughlin, 153 Helen Drive, the Secretary Treasurer of the school district. The attendance of the students in Abington has a major factor. All the assessments that we do every year, there's 3 components, there's 3 different calculations that we do. One is the current attendance as of October 1st. That goes into one part of the calculation. When we allocate capital costs, as Tom mentioned, we had $895,000 in the fiscal 21 budget. That capital cost gets allocated based upon an average of the prior 3 years' attendances, the enrollments for the students. So, you know, in various years, the Abington attendance has reduced over the last couple of years. So the fiscal 21 capital costs are based upon Abington's attendance of 83 students in fiscal 20, 94 students in fiscal 19, and 115 back in 2018. So the third piece is the debt. Now, the question that you asked, the debt, the enrollment gets frozen. So as on Tom's projection, the 16.89%, that's frozen for the life of the bond. So if Abington's attendance goes up and down in the next 20 years, it won't affect the allocation of the debt, because that debt does get frozen at the point in time that the vote is taken. So the attendance will affect the operating budgets, but won't affect how the debt gets allocated to each town. And one other factor is that, as Tom mentioned, we have been using a large number of dollars in our budget to fund capital projects over the last few years, mainly because we haven't done many major improvements. So this is sort of bottling up all of the capital plan numbers. And as Sue mentioned earlier, the impact of Abington right now, in the fiscal 21 budget, the allocation for capital is $151,000. On some of the scenarios, whether it's level payment of debt or level payment of principal, the highest number is $133,000. So the effect of the taxpayer is actually it's going to reduce the assessment to Abington, specifically over the first 2 years, when the capital number will go down because we don't have a great need for capital anymore because we're doing it as part of this project. We're just going to pay interest for a couple of years. So as you dive deeper into the notes that Tom gave you, you'll see that there is a reduction in the allocation for Abington in the first couple of years. So overall, it's a plan that we're borrowing $10.8 million, but if the debt wasn't approved, we'd be looking to include $900,000 of capital debt, capital costs into our budget for the next 10 years. So obviously, it's better to do the project all at once. So.
But we're really going to be spending $18.9 million over the course of this project. And if you divide that by the 16.85% or whatever it is in 20 years, I mean, it's $159,000 a year out of Abington's pocket, correct?
Yes. So the number you just cited, the 159, in our original plan, what we were saying to our communities is that by the time the second bond would have rolled on, the annual amount would go higher than the fiscal 22 number that we talked about earlier. The other variable that we will continue to work on as best we can is we are regular candidates with MSBA. So I think the one game changer in the next few years could be that if we do have a favorable MSBA invitation to the eligibility period as we continue to apply, then we would have to reassess that. And as soon as we can get someone outside of our local district to pay for some of these costs, we should endeavor to do so. So we'll continue to apply to them as well in the hopes that we might be able to get some relief for some of these projects.
So what are we doing for $18.9 million?
The $18.9 million would cover all of the major recommendations in our facilities master plan, which would include a roof, a 30-year-old roof that needs replacing. It would upgrade the ventilation system in our 1962 building. It would account for code upgrades that would likely be triggered after doing such intense work over a short period of time. A big chunk of the work that we would be deferring in the second phase involves the rewiring of the original part of the building. There is part of the project, another big chunk of this would be our sprinkler system. Our 1962 building has no fire suppression system. That would be a big improvement to have that coupled with the necessary ceiling repairs. So a lot of it is the 1962 part of the building, which if you've been in the school, everyone would agree it's a well-maintained building. So we don't need to do surgery where surgery isn't warranted. But part of this also involves us needing to address modernizing some of our shop spaces where we have year in and year out been unable to service the needs of kids who want particular programs. The vast majority of the 18.9, however, about 75% of it, is for infrastructure improvements to the building.
So is that, you've submitted an article. Is all that information in here for the townspeople to read in the article?
The article
Or
would...
will you have a flyer or?
Sure, we have some supplemental resources. So we would have all of this information on our website. That would include the facilities master plan, a recorded, narrated presentation. We have all of that housed for all 8 of our communities.
I would suggest you bring something to town meeting,
Certainly.
a handout.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions or comments from the board? No. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you, guys.
All right. So next up is a police chief search consultant candidates. Scott, you want to give us an update?
Yeah, I think you guys both got the 2 responses. Everybody got both of them?
Yeah.
So as you see, we have PSC and MRI were the only 2. I think there was probably a half a dozen firms that I sent this out to. They weren't, these are, the only 2 that were actually interested. They both compare very well. They meet the minimum criteria, and they're pretty much even when it comes to the comparative criteria. So ultimately, it's kind of, up to this board to pick, which of these 2 that they would like me to work with.
So, going through this, why is there no pricing in here, the cost?
So there's 2 ways to put a bid product out for a supply and service. Mass General Law, Chapter 30B, allows us to do your typical invitation for bid. A typical invitation for bid would be a scope of service or a description of the supply that you want. This is what I want. This is the minimum criteria for what I want. If you can supply this to me, give me a price. It comes in a sealed envelope. It's opened at a specific date and time, and it's read aloud, and the award goes to the lowest bidder, or in the case of selling something, it would go to the highest bidder. The other option, if a town feels that they would be willing to pay a slight premium to actually have the quality that they want, you can do what's called a request for proposal. And a request for proposal, you send out the same sort of scope. This is what I want, whether it's a good or a service. In this case, it's a service. And we say, this is the service. There's a minimum criteria that you have to meet to even be able to put your name in for this. And then there's a quality criteria that we're going to rank you on, and we're going to look at everybody who submits their proposal, and whoever we think meets the criteria the best, that's the person that we're going to go with, and then we're going to open the prices. And if they are, a reasonable price, and we feel as though it's worth what we're looking to do,
So they've submitted a price, but it
Right.
hasn't been opened?
it doesn't get opened
I
until we
see.
make a decision.
So if we make the decision tonight, we would
If you make
unseal
the
that?
decision, I would unseal it tonight. If you don't make the decision, I'll wait until a decision is made. But I do have them. I do have the sealed envelopes. And again, like I said, if, unless there was some sort of a crazy disparity in the price, which there's not likely to be, then we would reconsider. But it really gives us the ability to pick who we think is best, as opposed to just going with the lowest bidder.
Thank you.
Does the board have any input, comments on it?
Do we know, Mr. Chairman, Scott, do you know what around the ballpark for how much this consultant would cost?
Oh, I'll let you know after you make a
average.
decision. I'll give you a real good ballpark.
So, my feeling is, since MRI did the study, I don't feel comfortable with them doing the search for the police chief.
And I will say that if you did choose the other firm, that study and the correspondence that came with that study will be given and used
I
as
understand
a high
that.
part of the
Yeah,
consideration.
no, I definitely understand that.
Okay. Any comments or input from the board?
What's your thoughts, Scott? I mean, this is ultimately your decision, I know, in consultation with us, but.
So ultimately, I wanted the board to make this decision. I find both firms are very, well-versed in this. I do think, my preference was with PSC, just from the conversations that I've had with them. It's really nothing against MRI, except, I did feel that their presentation to this board was a bit lackluster. Some of the stuff that I thought was in their management report, I felt was maybe cut and paste. But, that being said, I think it was a good report. It was, definitely a piece that will be given off to whoever we decide. If it's MRI, then they'll work with it. But certainly if it's PSC, then we're going to say, look at this. This is something that the town spent a lot of time, thought, and money on, and it should help give you some direction in the recruitment process.
Okay.
So I guess the short answer is yes, PSC would be.
So
who I
are
would
you
prefer.
you're not looking for a motion from us, you're just...
Yeah, no, I would, if, it's up to you folks. You can do one of two things. If you're confident in which firm that you feel is best, that you would like to see me work with, then go ahead and vote. If you're, the other option is to have another meeting, and I would recommend we do it sooner than later, and bring them in, and you can interview them.
I'm not sure that's necessary.
I don't think that's necessary here, but, does the board, I'd entertain a motion if the board wants to make
I'd make
one?
a
or-
motion to go
My
with...
standing opinion is less meetings, the better.
So then I'll make a motion to go with Public Safety Consultants LLC from Pocasset, Massachusetts.
I will second that motion.
Okay, first and a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and just further on that, so my thought is I do want to bring in and ask for 2 volunteers from the community to work with Sue and I on this. So I'm going to post a talent bank form specifically for this. My hopes would be if I can get 2 members of the community, maybe have out of this talent bank, if the selectman could select a person, and if the moderator could select a person for me, these citizens can help act as conduits for anybody who doesn't feel comfortable reaching out to the board or reaching out to me. They certainly would be able to, whether it's members of the bargaining unit, members of the force, or just general citizens who are looking to make sure that their opinions and get, concerns are heard as we go through this process. So I'm going to put that out and post it tomorrow, and hopefully we'll turn that around pretty quick, too.
Good, thank you, Scott. I think it would be great to have some input from our sitting officers.
So,
And they're, obviously, they're welcome to reach out to me also with,
so when will you unseal? Are we going to find out this price, or,
do you want me to go now?
I mean, we're
My
on
guess
it.
is it's somewhere around $25,000, though. It's in the drawer, top middle drawer, behind the snacks. There's one large envelope and one small one.
So you think our next meeting, you'll put that committee, or we'll put that committee together?
Yep, I would, I'm gonna post this tomorrow. I would hope that, you guys would reach out your normal channels to let folks know, and we'll see, what sort of responses we get, and then I'll present you guys with what we have.
Okay.
And again, I think it just, again, and it's in hopes of, working with the community to make sure that, this is a big decision that we're gonna be making, so we wanna make sure that we have as much input as possible and enough voices heard, so. Okay, this is public safety consultant.
And the Oscar goes to?
Public safety consultants is all-inclusive total service fee of $12,500. And I have several copies of that. And if you're curious about what MRI, this is awkward. $17,500 with an advertising budget of an additional $1,200. So there we go.
So you'll reach out to them tomorrow also?
I will. I'm going to onboard them as fast as possible and
Right.
start the process.
Okay.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Scott.
So next up is transfers, town employees. This is one that I myself asked Scott to put on the agenda. I know it's going to be a very light one, we can't really talk much, but I had a few thoughts on this of, in the absence of an appointing authority, that, the authority could be transferred to the town manager. Scott, I don't know if you could just give us some input or any add to that, or?
Yeah, I mean, with most departments, obviously, if somebody wanted to leave town or transfer out, they would, and it wouldn't be much of an issue. There are a couple bargaining units and specifically civil service units that require approval prior to a transfer. And it gets difficult because a lot of times the decisions have to be based on, staffing and maintaining minimum staffing, and obviously that leads to different issues. So where Kevin thought maybe there was an issue with this or a problem just in the past, making sure that going forward there is some sort of continuity or smooth transition, that if there is for some reason an absence or a vacancy in that appointing authority, that I would approve the transfers if they were necessary. That being said, I would still have to run this by town council and see if that is something to do. I think more often than not, there's going to be somebody in place. I don't see it, but it is possible that there could be a situation that arises that someone's not in place.
Okay. Does the board have any input on it, or?
So ultimately, you're just looking, that would be a change in the bylaws or the charter.
Well, the charter is pretty specific. You have a strong, you have strong chiefs that are the appointing authority. They're appointed by me, and, it is a, and personnel issues are out of the realm of the Board of Selectmen. But there are, it is an issue that if somebody wasn't in that position and you need someone to sign off, I think that as a town manager, I would be able to do it. Ultimately, I think we would always make sure that there was somebody in that position that could do it though. So this is just belts and suspenders.
So maybe just a policy change until the next charter review?
Yeah,
And
that
then
probably will.
maybe in-depth look at it at that point.
Yeah.
How many years out are we for that? Do you know
I
offhand?
want to say 2 years. Leanne, does that sound right to you? I believe it's 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, yeah, that would make sense.
Okay.
I'd support a policy change for, until then, just to, like you said, Kevin, to keep it clearly defined, I guess.
That's all that I was looking at on this one. I think it's a simple one that we could do something and, just keep continuity in any situation would arise. Again, obviously checking with town council and going from there. Is there any further comment from the board or any input? I know there's a few town employees in the audience. Does anyone want to speak on this, or? You just say your name and address, please.
Well, I'm a non-resident, but I work at the Abington Police Department. I'm the president of the local union. Firstly, congratulations for you and on your appointment and your reappointment.
Thank you.
I really have no comments on the ability for you to transfer, okay? I did write a letter to the town. I gave each one of you a letter, including you. I didn't give you one yet. Can I give you some?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a subject of bargaining.
So,
Well, I can't speak.
on this matter, it is
Yes.
a subject we can't discuss right now, but,
So it's collective bargaining, so I just want to make sure that you guys actually read the letter and consider what's been said. Because we're about to hemorrhage a lot of officers, and it's going to be imminent. Okay?
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant.
Okay. Is anyone else, or? No? Okay. So on that, we would be looking for a motion to do that, or
I suppose you could vote it.
or do we need a motion on it?
You want to wait till I talk to council?
I would, yeah. I'd
Get some input and then-
Yeah, I'd want to read the
Bring it back,
I'd want to
so-
read the policy.
Yeah, get the
Okay.
motion from town council, and we could do it at the next meeting.
Okay. So we'll put that on next. Next up is the Abington Station 40B application, Summer Street.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
point of order for me. Mr. Chairman, I've spoken to State Ethics Commission. Unfortunately, I will need to recuse myself from this discussion at this time. I have an immediate family member who works for Mass Housing, which will be the approval, the site approval management. So I want to make sure that no conflict is here or breaking any ethics. So I'm going to have to recuse myself from this discussion.
Okay.
Okay, so what we have is we have been copied on a application to Mass Housing from a developer. The developer is proposing to put in what is known as a Chapter 40B project at the Summer Street. I believe it's 0 Summer Street, but. So the process that will happen here is right now, like I said, they're in the application stage with the state. The state is going to review this proposal, and the state will either issue them a letter of approval, and they'll go forward. If they do get the letter of approval, they will file what's called a comprehensive permit application with the town. That application will go to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Zoning Board of Appeals will act as the board of all boards and be the only board that will hear this application. So in the meantime, what we've done is I've sent this application out to department heads and to the land use boards, planning and conservation, and I believe the health board has got a copy of it. And basically what we need is comments from them on what sort of impact this project will have, permitting, construction, and post-construction. Those comments will be submitted to this board, and then this board is going to submit those comments to Mass Housing as per this letter prior to May 24th. Mass Housing will take those comments under consideration when they decide whether or not to approve this project eligibility. I can tell you, in 15 years of experience and working from start to finish on more than a half a dozen of these projects, this project is likely to get approved by Mass Housing. I'd be very surprised if it didn't. It meets a lot of their criteria that they're looking for right now as far as proximity to transit and stores and, and affordable housing. So I've already contacted the Mass Housing Partnership. They do offer us some technical assistance, of some staff that can help us work our way through this process. I think that, we'll have somebody on board as soon as we hear back from Mass Housing. But at this point, the only thing we can do, there will be a site walk, I believe you,
May
on Tuesday, May 4th at 11 a.m. It really is for boards and committee members to attend. I don't believe it's something that they want the general public showing up for. This is still private property, but I will confirm that one way or the other. I reached out to Mike Busby over at Mass Housing, and I am going to have I have a scheduled meeting with the developer tomorrow.
Can you strongly urge that they change that time from 11 a.m., knowing our boards and committees are all volunteers and work full-time jobs?
Oh, I have.
Can you strongly urge again?
Yeah.
No, I understand it's an uphill battle, but
And again, so this is Mass Housing, the application from an applicant to Mass Housing, and Mass Housing is scheduling this with the applicant and then inviting us along. So Mass Housing is not doing this.
So this isn't for us?
It's not really
per
for
se.
us.
Okay.
Right. Now, we're invited, and we will, we'll have people there. And if at all, I can get him to have it at another time or even schedule a second meeting. But again, the comments that we need to make, and they should come from the individual boards and be specific to the jurisdiction of the individual boards. So as, again, conservation, if they do have wetlands issues and conservation issues, it would be good for them to let us know. Now, if this is approved and they do file for the comprehensive permit with the Zoning Board of Appeals, there will be multiple meetings and multiple hearings on this. This won't be a one-night thing. Everybody will have an opportunity. The neighborhood, the abutters, the town will all have an opportunity to come in and speak to this. I don't know what the forum will be. It depends on when it is. This is probably still several months before it actually gets to the zoning board. So I don't know if, we'll do whatever we can to make it a forum that everybody can participate in. Like I said, we'll bring on technical support. I've worked with Amy Quessel and KP Law on several of these. They are very well versed in Chapter 40B, so they'll be very helpful. And again, Mass Housing Partnership has a list of consultants and several that I've worked with, and I know we'll onboard one of them as soon as we can.
Does the applicant pay for a consultant?
Mass Housing Partnership will pay for the consultant. And when the project is under review, we will hire any necessary consultants from there as far as engineering firms go. And if we needed a traffic study reviewer, they will be required to do a traffic study. We can hire someone to review it. The applicant will pay for that. They're going to file a site plan. We're going to hire a civil engineer to review it. The applicant will pay for that. They've submitted architectural drawings and architectural plans. We will have someone review the design and make sure that it is in harmony with what Abington wants to see. So throughout the process, yeah, the applicant will pay most of the expenses, bear the brunt of the cost, and we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
Right.
Okay. Does the board have anything further, any comments or questions?
You said you gave the site plan that's been submitted to us, to the department heads?
Yeah, I did. I sent it out to the police chief, the fire chief, the water department.
Did you send it to us?
I sent you an abridged version of it, I believe. Or actually, maybe I was thinking of giving it to you tonight.
Can you just throw a hard copy in our box? Please?
I'll give you the Reader's Digest version, yes. And I will actually, the problem was it was so voluminous, it was very difficult to get it.
Oh, is that the book you're going through there? Yeah,
Yeah.
the abridged copy's fine.
Yeah, so what and I'll post it too.
I was gonna say, is that public record? 'Cause-
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So
So
it'll be on
everybody
the
who
website?
wants to, and if, at some point, I will be able to get them to send me an electronic copy of it, which will make it even easier. But again, this is, right now, this is in the stage where it's an applicant and an application to Mass Housing. So we're not sure where it'll go. And then, again, part of my conversation with the developer tomorrow will be, let him know of our water woes. I'm not sure if he's aware of that at this point.
Thank you.
Now, will the water situation they'll take that into effect?
Yeah, typically these projects are, from this point that they're at now to before they're approved and ready for a shovel on the ground, if it's not controversial, is over a year. A controversial project and one of this magnitude will take, longer. So I would hope that we've come to some grips and solved our water woes by then also. But I don't know. Time will tell on that. So I think they'll still go forward with the project.
If we have water available, a 40B goes to the top of the list anyway for water and sewer, don't they?
They probably do, yeah.
I mean, we have sufficient sewer, but water, I believe they'd go to the top of the list before other projects.
Yeah. Well, especially since all the other projects are on hold too. Yeah. But that's, again, that's for the future.
Yeah.
So this is really the early beginning stages of this.
This is the very, very initial stage.
There's a lot of
correct.
questions, there's a lot of things that we just don't know yet.
Yeah, and again, there's going to be a lot of forums on this. We are, the individual boards will have it on their agendas for discussion items. So, and if anybody has concerns, I would, reach out to the particular board if you think there are wetlands issues. Conservation's going to be discussing it. If you think that, there's issues with density, the planning board's going to be discussing it. And these are all comments that are going to come back to us. Obviously, we'll have public safety concerns as far as, increased need for police or fire. Traffic is going to be a huge concern, and water is going to be a huge concern. So again, all these comments we're going to offer up to Mass Housing, but what Mass Housing will do with it, I can't. My guess is they're still going to come forward with a comprehensive permit. So.
Okay. So again, it's early. We're going to have plenty of opportunities and forums to speak and discuss these things, but is there anyone here tonight that wants to briefly talk? Yep, you can just come right up, see your name and address. Thank you.
Hi, Dot PD 501 Summer Street. Do they already walk the land before they put the application in, or?
Well, they own the land, so they are the.
Oh, so it's the gentleman that owns the land that's building it, it's not Woods Partners, is a different
Well,
one?
they are working together, correct.
I'm still trying to learn the politics of a small town. I come from a big town, but there's a big pond there, and it had said something about, water, they can't build on a water, and then wetlands. my yard is mush for till like probably
Yeah, and again,
August, though.
right now, it's conceptual, it's not an application to us, so I can't really speak on any
So
of the
they-
merits of that. But those are the concerns that we want to put forward to Mass Housing.
Okay, and can I just ask really quickly, if you can make sure the traffic study's done during, like with school too, and takes
Oh, no,
consideration?
I assure you that an extensive traffic study will be done there.
I have a 25 mile an hour sign right in front of my house, and it wasn't in the traffic study before when we were fighting this. So I just want to make sure that they know it says 25 miles an hour in front of my house, and nobody's ever seen it or written it in any of the traffic studies. So, and then I was just wondering, can we do a research of other towns that like have successfully challenged the 401Bs and affordable houses and have won?
Yeah,
I've tried, but I can't get into.
that'll be a
it.
pretty
Are you-
quick
Like, are
study.
you able to get into those?
No, I've just, I just came from a town that, we spent a lot of time litigating these, and I don't believe, I know that none of them, they were all built, except for one in that town. And they had deep pockets and lots of attorneys.
I'm not
So
even concerned about it being built. 4-story buildings is what's concerning me.
so that's going to be something that when and if this does go to the zoning board of appeals, that's going to be the opportunity to say, yeah, that doesn't fit, and it's a public safety issue, it's too tall, it's whatever the case may be. But that's not, we're not at that point yet.
And then that gentleman made me nervous with the cops leaving because I take my life in my hands getting out of my driveway now, get on Summer Street. They drive 500 miles an hour, and I'm right at Plymouth Street where there's an accident like every other week. And so now, that's even worse. We're not even gonna have police for that. It's like
Yeah.
really nerve-wracking, so, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay. So, for this, Scott, do we have to do anything on this tonight, or?
No, again, like I said, the idea here is the other boards, the department heads, and the relevant departments all have this, and I've already started getting comments in, so on the 10th, when we meet, I will give you sort of a compiled, version of those comments for you to review. You'll have it before the meeting, you can review it, and then I think you'll vote on me sending that off to Mass Housing.
Okay.
And if anyone on this board is available on May 4th and you want to go to that site walk, let me know, and I'll make sure Mike Busby knows that we're coming. I'll be there.
I can fill it for you if you can't make it.
And again, if it is something, and I'll find out tomorrow, but if it's something that they have no issue with the public on their site, on their private, then, by all means, we'll make sure that people are aware of that.
Okay. So with no further discussion on that, we'll move on to discussion on citizen petition article, the request process.
Yeah, so there was some, a little bit of, over the special town meeting and even on this town meeting, a few citizen petitions came in, and they were sort of scrambling to try and figure out what the process was for doing that. I did post in a couple places what the guide to town elections and town meeting, but I don't think that really spelled it out clear enough. So my intention is to, put a packet together that anybody can find on our website in the future before the next town meeting that'll spell out what they should do. I do highly recommend, and I will put it out there on that when somebody does want to do a citizen's petition, whether it's just a general one or even, especially with a zoning one, that I would recommend that they would, contact myself, Sue, Leanne, someone at Town Hall anyways, just to sort of review the process and review what they want to do, and make sure that, what they want to do is something that they can do and can ask for. But we will post we'll have a form on there with some specific details on where to pick it up, how to fill it out, how many signatures to get. If it's a zoning article, that they should work with us prior to submitting it, but when they do submit it, they should expect to pay for advertisement because we have to have public hearings on zoning articles. But we'll have all that together. There's some really nice sites out there that other towns are doing, and I kind of like them so we'll have that before the next meeting.
I think that'd be great, because I did hear from one of the petitioners that, they had submitted, and then were told after the fact that they had to pay a very high price and that they couldn't find it anywhere. So again, that's what I had questioned you, Scott, at the time was, where is it, where are we advertising this? Where are we telling them that they have to do this? And there's nothing in black and white, so we need to get that there, because it's not fair to the residents, or, we need to get it out there.
Yep.
Well, like Scott said, if the applicants maybe discussed it with Scott, maybe
Yeah.
that particular zoning one, the selectmen could have done it.
Yeah,
And saved the applicant, the $500 for advertising.
So,
Yeah,
And that is quite,
yeah.
specifically with bylaw changes and zoning changes, and I would always recommend that you reach out to the planning board or to this board, because especially, if they're good ones, and it's something that this board or the planning board or another board feels as though they want to support, it'd be easier to sponsor it that way.
Right. Now, is that particular one we're talking about, is that something that the selectmen could do for a fall town meeting if there was?
Next year, sure, absolutely. And I would recommend you work with the planning board on that, and
Yeah.
we'll put an article together and let them, one of us sponsor it.
okay. Next up is the town manager report.
I think we pretty much went over everything I've been doing lately, so I don't know that I have anything to add this week. It's really all been about, getting this, getting the budget, getting the warrant, getting my town report done. And then I think the only other thing that I would bring up in that I will at your request, I will put it on the next board meeting, is what to do when there's a vacancy in another elected multiple member board. So what our, and I believe it's just in the bylaw or the charter, but the process is if there exists a vacancy in an elected multiple member board or body other than the Board of Selectmen, the remaining members shall forthwith give notice of the existence of any such vacancy to the Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen shall then provide for notice of such vacancy as provided for in Article 7, Section 7-11 by posting the vacancy on the town bulletin board. Any person who desires to be considered to fill such vacancy may, within 10 days following the date the notice is posted, file with the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Committee which has experienced the vacancy, a statement which sets forth in clear and specific terms the qualifications which he or she holds for the position, not earlier than 14 days nor later than 30 days after said notice is posted. The Board of Selectmen and the remaining members of the Board of Committee which has experienced the vacancy shall fill such vacancy at a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and such board. So, again, this is something that following this guidelines, if you wish, we'll start the process on.
So, we're obviously talking about Board of Health here, and,
Thanks to somebody.
yeah, so it would actually, we wouldn't have time to do it on our May 10th
No, I guess we
meeting.
won't be able to do it on our next meeting, but
You have to post it for 30 days.
yeah, I think
And they have to,
they have to
Contact
notice
us
us, and they have to
yeah.
want it to be filled, and,
So it'll be in June.
yep.
Yeah, okay.
But, which is nice, because it gives us plenty of time to seek candidates that are interested.
So, yeah, so we need at least 14 days, no more than 30 days. Okay, so,
For that advertising.
yeah.
Yeah, but we'll start, I'll reach out to Marty. I believe the Board of Health will meet next Monday, and if they vote that they want to go forward with it, I'll post it the next day, and we'll start the clock. And again, you may, I don't know if it works, that maybe you could do it at town meeting, since you'll both be there anyways.
That's
Yeah,
true.
we could, probably only take a couple of minutes, so I think the sooner we can do it, the better.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'll look at the calendar, I'll look at, work with Marty and.
Because they're really short-handed now that Alex isn't there, so.
Actually, you know what, they said they feel fine. and
Flattered, Alex.
There's no complaining.
It's an
right?
awesome team.
Their meetings will probably be a lot quicker.
Oh,
Ours will be
can't
longer.
deny.
And Leanne, I want to thank you for doing such a wonderful job on Saturday.
Thank you.
Would you like to make any comments to the board?
There's the mic. Come on up.
Absolutely not.
No comments, okay.
But it was a very good day, and everybody was very supportive of the department, and went very well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, if I may speak to that, Scott, I was wondering, I suggested to the chairman as well, and to the board, I would suggest that the board have our town manager, Scott Lambiase, debrief the board, and maybe perhaps 1 month on what worked or what not worked with the new election site, Beaver Brook. I do want to also thank our amazing town clerk, Leanne Adams, and the terrific volunteers that made our elections this year very successful. I thought, I've heard from several residents on the matter, some good, most good, and some not so good. If we could just have, you, Scott, reach out to, have discussions with Leanne, Deputy Chief Police, Deputy Police Chief Cotter and others, including residents, on how we can maybe perhaps improve election process and make it safe and efficient.
So-
Any suggestions on how to increase voter participation, that would be awesome as well.
I think, and I think, Scott, you probably have talked to most of them. You were there throughout the day, probably getting updates, but it would be good just to maybe, hear some comments, because, all of
I
us
think,
were there.
No, I think you're right, and I will reach out to Deputy Cotter, because I would like to, it was a big question of traffic flow and things like that in
Yeah,
my
I
mind, but
think
again,
Yeah,
it wasn't the busiest of elections. I
Right.
think that we would have deeper concerns if this was a state, certainly a federal election.
right.
So yeah, I think it would be nice to actually get, like you said, we'll internally kind of meet and discuss what we think we can improve on, what we think we did well, and
And remember, this was the first time doing it there, so, there's going to be stuff we got to work out. So I thought it went pretty well for the first time, work in progress, and we'll continue to improve.
there were no power issues, right?
No problem.
Nice.
Thank you, Leanne.
While we're on the election, a resident reached out to me and said she remembers when we used to advertise the town election. I actually don't have signs around town for the town election. I don't actually remember that. I do know that we put signs around for town meeting. But years ago, we had town meeting on Monday, and the election was on the following Saturday, so more people were aware of it. A lot of people aren't aware that we even have an election. So I called John Stone and asked if we did have signs for election. He said we didn't, but he would order them. And I think that's a good idea.
Could we, we usually use the boards right out here, right? The board here in Strawberry
It was on there and it
Valley.
was on the other, but, we do put signs around at some of the intersections for the town meeting, on May 24th and stuff. So I don't think it would hurt, and I don't think it would be
What about-
that expensive, and, if John says he's willing to buy them and put them up, and
What about, does, I know the police department has it, the digital
big
signs on the
radar.
trailers. What about even a few of those around
Yeah.
town?
Yeah, certainly.
because like I said, without town meeting first, it's, some people, a lot of people don't have, well, some people don't have Facebook, I guess, but,
What?
yeah.
Well, I think, and our hopes are to probably start the budget process a little bit earlier, going into next year, because I would want to hold town meeting prior to the election next year, and if we can.
That's really the way it should be.
Well, yeah, because, depending on what happens, if in fact the voters decide, that they want to go forward with the design and bidding for the fire station project, and we do go forward with that, and we have bids in hand, I believe when we go to town meeting, it will require a town meeting vote and a ballot vote. So
So
it
that
would
way
be
we
nice to
wouldn't
have the
have to
town
do
meeting
two.
vote and then the ballot
Right.
vote.
Yeah, that's how it always was, until I think the charter
can do it,
changed. and
We can get started a little bit earlier.
It started this week, and you'd be all set.
Pretty easy, nobody's getting anything different next year now,
May 25th.
except Leanne.
So if it's okay, I told John I would bring it up, and
Yeah, no, we'll talk to
he'll
John.
take care of it, so I'll just tell him it was the consensus that it would be a good idea.
So we want town meeting signs and town election.
He has town meeting
All right,
signs,
so,
and he puts them on 4 or 5 intersections. So we'll do the same for the town elections.
the same kids that steal the Chapin signs, will see if they want us.
I think that was Alex Haggerty.
Scott, could you,
No comment.
could you get an update on the LED light conversion,
Yeah.
you know, through the DPW? I know
absolutely.
they're moving right along. I just,
Yeah, so, and actually, you know what, I could probably ask John Stone, you know, to give us a quick update. I was gonna ask Deputy Chief Cotter to come in at our next meeting for another update. And we're gonna see if I can get, I talked to Joel Appoint and see if he will come to our next meeting just to discuss with us what's going on with the water ban and with the PFAS 6 issue.
okay. And another thing of note is North Quincy Street, you know, another update on that. We got the last update. It seems like there's big gaps in between, but if we could get more of a consistent update, it seems like that's fallen to the wayside.
No, it hasn't. It's just that the update would be, we're still working on it and they're still cleaning it up. So it's, you know, nothing, now it is, it's just sort of, you know, I think Alex and I are gonna go out and meet with him tomorrow, Wednesday, just to take a look at request of the property owner. I will get an update from Chief Nuttall and ask him, and I'm sure he would be happy to come to our next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, just to hear, I mean, I know he said that there was no paperwork, he was getting last minute stuff, you know, has there been any,
Update on.
has he given any
I think
paperwork,
there
has he gotten
been
any?
Some, Victor Semino had asked me to stop by about a week ago, which I did, and he gave me that list I think I sent to you. And some of the items on that list may not be required now,
Okay,
you know, so that's what he's at. Some of the fuel permit for over 2,000 gallons, they cleared everything out, so I'm sure Chief Nuttall was on that, and so he had
I'll get an
asked
update from him and-
if we could, if Scott and I could go back and look again, and
okay,
I will say, he is making progress cleaning it up. When I was there, it's gonna be a long process, and he knows that. And he's aware of some of the buildings that, or sheds, whatever you wanna call them, need to come down, and they're coming down. But from the first time I went out there with Jim and sent all you guys those pictures, there's been major changes out there.
good,
But it's gonna be a long, slow process. It's a huge piece of property, and there are hundreds of vehicles, and, you know, it's gonna take time to do that. But they are making progress, and he wanted us to go out again and take a look at it, so.
And I'll ask, again, I'll ask John what his latest observations were, and I'll email them to the board, then have him come and probably do an update with the board.
awesome. That'd be great. Okay, anything else from the board? All right, so next up is the executive session, Mass General Law, Chapter 39, Section 23B, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with union personnel. Be looking for a motion for that. Also to add on that, we'll only be returning to open session to adjourn.
Okay, I'd make that motion.
Thank you, Leanne.
Have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, it's a roll call vote, so Alex Hagerty,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Tim,
Aye.
Alex?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous? All right.